Yeah, g'day, I'm Brett and welcome back to Reliance Australia. So this video is about the reasons why I have upgraded my lawnmower or our ride-on mower. Some call them a lawn tractor, depending on what country you're in. In Australia, we call them ride-on mowers. So I previously had a John Deere LT160, so it's a 16 horsepower Briggs & Stratton engine. Great little mower. It actually came with the house when we bought it. But look, it had a lot of hours on it. So I had over 1,000 hours. So, and look, I was breaking it. So what I ended up doing was upgrading. I've upgraded to a Husqvana TS342, which is a great machine. And we'll go through in the video the reasons why I like it, the things I do like about it, the things I don't necessarily like about it. But as you can see, like the ground behind me drops away and it's fairly steep. So one of the really important parts was having a diff that locked on it, but also having that extra grunt from the engine that comes in, and we'll go into that in a bit more detail. So without any further ado, let's get into it. So yeah, you have it, the Husqvana TS342. Now, why did I choose to trade in the old John Deere LT160 on this orange beastie? Well, there's several reasons. Nothing not that the John Deere was bad or anything. Look, it just wasn't designed for what I was using it for. And I think that's a big part of any piece of machinery. You need to get the right piece of kit to do the job that you want it to do. And I was asking far too much of that little John Deere, and I was breaking it fairly regularly. Also, it had like 1,100 hours on that little engine. So it had a little Briggs & Stratton 16 horsepower engine. It had a cast deck. Like this one, you can see it's a fabricated deck, so a lot stronger. And I kept actually breaking the old cast deck on the John Deere. And to be honest, the replacement costs for just the deck wasn't worth it, so I upgraded. So why did I choose this particular model and not another John Deere? Well, one of the reasons was cost, but also for the price point. This has a locking diff on it, so it's a viscous locking diff, so it's not like I have a handle that locks it in, but it does work very well. And on the slopes that I have here, that has made a huge difference just from a safety perspective. So what are the things that I do really like about it? Let's have a look under the hood, shall we? That, for a start, 21.5 horsepower. It's a V-twin Kawasaki engine. Sounds amazing, but it has a lot of grunt and it goes really, really well. So it gets through all the thick stuff. The only time that motor has stopped is when I've bent the blade and the blade has dunk into the ground and it was fighting the earth one just quietly. So yeah, so that's it under the hood. You can see there's a bit of grass in there, so I need to give that a bit of a clean out. But that is the engine. Look, I do really like that. It does provide the grunt that I've been looking for. Also, the second point was the fabricated deck. So it's a lot stronger. You can see that the bit of plastic under the chute there has actually broken off. Look, that's because I'm hitting twigs and stuff like that. You might be wondering what the heck I have that piece of string on my deck for. That's so I can lift that up to get in between trees. So it's just there. It never catches on anything. Mostly because I've got rid of those branches. But when I'm out in the paddock and riding in between the trees, that does actually make a difference. It allows me to get up a lot closer to the trees when I'm on that side of the mower. The other things that I really do like about it is that it gives me a good range for the deck height. Look, it's pretty simple to service as well. So I'll do all the servicings on it. I've replaced the blades a couple of times, and I will do a separate episode on that because that is a fun job. And I have actually bent the blades a couple of times just from picking up sticks that are just a little bit too thick, and they've got stuck underneath and ended up breaking. Look, the seat is comfortable. It is a bit higher than the John Deere, and so that did create a bit of a problem. It still does some days as well. because I hit my head on branches. So when I first moved down here and I had the John Deere, I actually took the branches off that were taking my head right off my shoulders. And so this is now just a little bit higher. And I guess as the trees get older and they're growing up, some of those branches are getting bigger and they're getting a bit heavier. So they're starting to sink down again. So I need to go through and do that again. Now, I'm sure this is probably a cup holder, to be honest. It's not actually deep enough to hold anything of any substance. Maybe a coffee mug. But look, I'm not going to be out drinking coffee when I'm mowing. I get that much grass and dust everywhere that all I'd be doing is drinking grass. One of the things I do like about this mower, while I'm talking about the good things, is this here. So it has a reserve switch. So if I do run out of fuel in the bottom paddock, I can flick that reserve switch over, restart it, drive it back up the shed and put fuel back in it. Whereas the previous one I had didn't have that. So if I ever ran out of fuel, then I was carting fuel down to the paddock to top it back up to get it going again. One thing I do like is these handles. You see these grab handles, that's really good. Because I am on slopes, I do tend to hang on to those when I'm moving. And it allows me to maneuver my weight and just position my weight differently over the wheels. And you might think that sounds a little bit too much over the top, but yeah, the slopes, I don't do it on don't go across the really steep slopes. I normally go up and down those. But sometimes if you're just on the cusp, it's just nice to be able to hang on to it. But on the same token, those handles, just have a look at that. They do stick out. So even though I do like having them, what I find is that they will hit trees as I'm going past them. And like I know you probably think, well, gee, if I'm hitting trees with that, you know, the tyres are probably going to be scrubbing as well. But it just depends on the angle of the ground and how the mower's sitting. And quite often what I do find, and you can see these scuff marks on it, it does push up. And in some points, yeah, you can see it there too. In here, that white line there, that's actually fatigue marks from where that has been pushed by a tree and a bit. Look, it hasn't broken or anything like that, but I just don't like scratching things. So some of the other things I don't like is my footrest. So where my feet sit is dead flat. And you might think, well, that sounds fair enough. But the one thing on the John Deere that I did like was it had a bit of a slope, so my foot angle wasn't dead flat, it was up a little bit. But also what that did allowed me to have a bit of grip when I was pushing against it. So as I said before, I'm grabbing on with these grab rails to position my weight. I can actually use my feet to push down just to position myself so I'm not getting flung off as well on some of the slopes. Probably sounds a bit extreme, I guess, but it's not really. The other thing that comes up with these are the dials. So it gives me an amp meter. And I have to say, I have absolutely no idea what the value of that amp meter is on this mower. Battery's either good or it's not. What I do find useful though, is this lapse time meter, so the hour counter. Like if these guys put like a speedo or a tacho, something that the needle could actually move on, that still wouldn't be any good, but it'd be at least look cool. But like an amp meter, the needle doesn't move, it just sits there. So it doesn't do a lot, it doesn't add a lot of value and doesn't look cool either. But what I do find is that these get condensation. And what that tells me is that these instruments have not been hermetically sealed. And how do I know that? Because that was my base trade. Work on aircraft was that the first thing to get any moisture or condensation in your dials is because the instruments have not been sealed properly. Now, is that a real problem? Probably not, because I'm just mowing grass. But because I am an old instrument fitter, it just bugs me, to be honest. But maybe it's my OCD, I'm not too sure. It just bugs me that people haven't built things right. I've built them cheap and quick instead. But overall, am I happy with the machine? Yes, I am actually very happy. And look, I say the support has been good. I did break the front stub axle probably within the first 12 months. I was on a bit of a slope and it gave way actually, and the mower tipped up. I nearly rolled it. So that was a bit of one of those moments. But look, the mower shop were really good. just took it back, they replaced it, all under warranty. So the service and the backup supply, the backup support has been really, really good as well. So they're the things that I like. Overall, I do really like it. It's gives me good control. It cuts nicely. I think it's a 42-inch deck instead of the 48. It's not the massive deck, and I chose the smaller deck, even though I have a lot of land. The wider deck probably would have been beneficial, but look, the spacings of the tree actually suit this size deck as opposed to the wider deck. It would have just been a little bit more awkward getting around the trees. And look, that's just as important as making good speed on the wider open space. But overall, really like it. Let's start her up and see what it sounds like. Unfortunately the lights don't do a real lot. They sort of look cool being LED, but you can't see much when it gets dark. So there you have it, another video done. Look, that is the Husqvana TS342. Look, I do really enjoy it. It's great to drive on. Look, it does the job that I really want it to do, which has the extra horsepower to get through the long grass. And look, down behind me, you'll see it as I pan around. Look, that gets really steep, especially when I pan around to that tree over there. I'll get the right spot. Look, that gets really tricky and really steep down there. And I've had it tip on me a few times. I've been very fortunate that it hasn't rolled over completely on me. But look, in one of the videos, I did try to capture a video of going up one of those steep bits, and unfortunately, it's quite bizarre. As it come out in the video, it looks like I'm just mowing on flat ground, so it's really, looks really lame, if I can be honest. But it's actually quite steep down there. Like, it's steep enough that when the grass is wet, the mower won't get up it. It just spins on the grass. So it's actually quite steep. But look, if you've enjoyed the video, please give it the big thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button, and if you want to get watch the videos early, hit the little bell so you get the notifications when they first come out. But until next time, I'll see you then.